Now part of the Darkcast Network. Welcome to Indie Podcasts with a dark side. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Love and Murder, the weekly true crime podcast discussing relationships gone terribly wrong, where our motto is, you're either someone's last love or their first murder. I am your host, Kai, and in today's episode, we're discussing a case of delusions of grandeur and the horrific beating of an entire family. Before we begin, I want to say that this episode is sponsored by my lambs in Patreon. Thank you for your continued support. Be sure to subscribe to Love and Murder right now while you're listening so you don't miss a case. And if you didn't know, you can also subscribe on our Patreon so that you don't have to hear intros or commercials such as this, and you'll be a sponsor of Love and Murder. Soon I'll be adding that option to Spotify, so be on the lookout for that. It's taken a lot of work to get it over on Spotify right now because I have to edit all past episodes, and I've been out for like 3 years now, so it's a little bit of work. Our last bonus episode over in Patreon, we discussed the insane case of one of the most infamous serial killers, Pedro Lopez. Patreon.com/Love and Murder. I'll talk more about our Patreon after the show. In the meantime, though, grab your butts, grab your apple juice, and let's get into some Love and Murder. The Cipriano family looked like what they would call an all-American family, the type of family they show on TV and some people wish they had. Bob Cipriano, father and husband, was 52 years old at the time of this case and was a school administrator for a public school. Rose Cipriano, 51, wife and mother, was a homemaker, which, as we know, is a full-time job all its own, and was a fitness instructor. Bob and Rosa were devoted to their marriage and their 4 children. They all lived in a wealthy community in Farmington Hills, which is right outside of Detroit, Michigan. Everything was what some may call, quote, picture perfect, but nothing big and eventful to report of the family. That is, until the morning of April 16th, 2012. On that morning, 2 people broke into their house and beat Bob with a baseball bat. They then found Rose and severely beat her. That's when son Salvatore ran into the room and gets brutally beaten too. Daughter Isabella witnesses the horrible act, and son Tanner hides in a closet and calls 911. By the time police arrive, Bob had drowned in a pool of his own blood. Salvatore and Rose are barely alive. They rush them to the hospital and begin their investigation. By all accounts, it appears to be a robbery that went wrong, but they still needed to find out who would do something so insanely horrible to this family. April 9th, 1993, Bob and Rose adopt a 4-days-old boy who they named Tucker Cipriano. Tucker's mother had abandoned him, and this became a point of contention in Tucker's life as he grew up. 1 year after adopting Tucker, Rose gave birth to twins Salvatore and Tanner. Finally finishing out the clan of kids is their one girl, Isabella. It was exactly what they wanted, and although Tucker was adopted, they never treated him any differently than their kids. When Tucker was in 2nd grade, he was treated for some learning disabilities, including ADHD. When he got into his teenage years, he started hanging with the wrong crowd and doing something that Rose and Bob didn't agree with, like drinking and doing drugs. Once he started doing this, his life started taking a downward turn. Rose, who was such a good mother and tried to help her adopted son, to the point that she went to classes for substance abuse trying to understand what Tucker was going through. In 2011, Tucker ended up being arrested for possession of cocaine. Then in 2012, he was placed on probation for this offense. While on probation, he started taking another drug, K12, or spice as some people call it. Spice is usually sold at gas stations, and it's a synthetic form of marijuana which contains deadly chemicals like JWH-018 and JWH-073. Most people say they do K2 because it's cheaper and more accessible. It also doesn't show up on drug tests back then, and according to the National Institute of Drug Abuse, it still doesn't. Side effects of taking K2 include nausea, seizures, vomiting, hallucinations, increased heart rate, dizziness, and red eyes. The effects of this drug is so much more dangerous and damaging to the body and mind than marijuana. However, I guess although you can die from this, I guess Tucker was more worried about it not showing up on his random drug test for his probation? In the last week of March 2012, Tucker and his friend Ian Zinderman met and became friends with Mitchell Young. At the time, Mitchell was homeless and living out of his truck, although he did have a job. Previously, his mother had kicked him out of the house because he hadn't shown her that he was trying to get into college. While he was out of the house, he was in the process of enrolling in the MIAT College of Technology and was trying to figure out how to pay for that. Now, I don't think that's a reason to kick your child out of the house, unless he's drinking, partying, doing drugs, and then just comes home, sleeps all day, doesn't help with anything at all, doesn't look like he's trying to get a job. Literally, he or she is looking like they're just going to try and live off of you and just party their life away. Then I could see that. Just because they weren't enrolling in college, that's kind of harsh. In early April, Tucker had started becoming paranoid about being arrested again for probation violation. He figured out a plan to cross the border into Mexico to escape probation. However, he needed money to do that. Tucker and Mitchell then sat down and made a plan to break into someone's house, rob them, and then kill them. Personally, when I needed money when I was younger, I usually just got 2 to 3 jobs and stringently saved in order to hit my money goals. To me, that makes sense. Anyway, they wanted to get $3,000. Yes, they were going to kill people for $3,000. And they were planning on splitting it up. So basically, they're killing people for $1,000 each and then move to Mexico. Now, let's sit down and think about this logic. Number 1, plan to break into people's house. In that time you take to plan, you could have been looking for a small part-time job or starting a side business, mow lawns, whatever. Number 2, you're only looking for $3,000, which will be $1,000 each. Number 3, you're going to move to Mexico on $1,000? How long do you think that money is going to last? $1,000 to move and start a new life? Look, to me, the logic ain't logicking at all. Ian was the only one with some type of sense and said that he would not be involved in any murder. So, on the evening of April 15, the 3 young men decided to break into Tucker's parents' home to get debit cards and go buy some K2. Yeah, to me this plan is getting better and better. Mitchell drove them to the house and Ian and Tanner went into the garage. Ian gave Tanner a boost to get into the garage window. In one of the cars, he found a Dearborn Federal Credit Union card. They grabbed that and left. They drove to a Valero station and tried to take out $100 from an ATM, but they couldn't. Thinking about it, did Tucker know the PIN number? Seriously, how many people know their parents' debit cards' PINs? Because I don't, and I never did. I think planning isn't really a strong suit of theirs. Anyway, so they moved on and was able to successfully buy K2 instead. Score, I guess? And then Mitchell filled up his gas tank, and then they drove 9 miles north, closer to where Tucker's girlfriend lived, and stopped at a mobile gas station and tried the card again. They then went back to Tucker's house, planning another burglary, and that's when Bob saw them and was attacked. When the police got there, as I said, Bob had died, and Rosa and Salvatore were gravely injured. Isabella and Tanner were unharmed. Police found a blood-soaked Mitchell at the house, but no one else but the Cipriano family. Officer Eric Buckberry is the one responsible for cuffing Mitchell. Quote, "I got him on the ground, and another officer puts handcuffs on Mitchell. He had blood on his hands, on the front of his shirt, things like that." He also said that Mitchell was crying and shaking hysterically. However, Tucker was nowhere to be found. Police went in search of him and found him and arrested him. At the police station, in video arraignments, Mitchell cried throughout his interrogation, but Tucker was calm and collected for the most part. During the questioning, both men blamed each other, because that is just how friendship goes. Police told them that based on the evidence, they were charged with murder. They both pled not guilty and blamed each other for the events of that night. Sergeant Richard Webby spoke with Mitchell, who told him that Tucker was the attacker. He said that Tucker, quote, went crazy and killed his father, beat his brother, and then hit him. He said he had no parts in the attack at all. He also continuously asked if he was in trouble. The problem with Mitchell's story is that it had a lot of inconsistencies, and it kept changing, especially when officers told him that Isabella told them that she'd seen Mitchell help and attack her family. That's when Mitchell just completely changed his story. Quote, the story changed on who drove to the scene, how they made entry into the residence, bits and pieces that were never mentioned. It was then that he also told them that the attack Isabella probably saw was when he hit Rose only, quote, 1 or 2 times in her head with one of the bats. Quote, I did not go to the Cipriano household intending to hurt anyone. I didn't go there intending to hurt anyone, let alone kill anyone. Tucker, on the other hand, told Sergeant Webby that it was Mitchell who beat both of his parents. Quote, he stated that he held him from behind and Mitchell was hitting him in the head with a baseball bat. His words were, quote, a lot. Detective Jason McDonald is quoted as saying, he did, however, admit that it was him who attacked his younger brother Salvatore, but when Isabella came downstairs, he tried to save her and get her away from Mitchell. Quote, he was pleading with her to stay in her room because he didn't want anything bad happening to his sister. She was stating, I thought you loved me. I thought you loved me. And his response to that was telling her that he did love her and to please stay in the room. Roderick, who is Mitchell, he goes by his middle name Roderick, had his sister Isabella and the doorbell rang. So she ran to the door, breaking away from Roderick. And it was the police. And at that point is when he said he ran out the back. So based on their stories, there was a robbery, but they blamed each other for who committed the murders. Police also had scooped up Ian, who sang like a bird, telling them that, quote, it was decided that Tucker was going to go after his 2 brothers and Roderick was going to go after the mom and the dad. He also agreed to a plea deal with them. He would testify in exchange for his immunity, singing like a freaking bird. He said, I had no parts in this. I told them I didn't want to do anything. Nope. I'm going to tell. Look, I already said, if it was me, don't do anything in front of me because I will sing like a bird. Because he didn't participate in the murder and had even asked to be dropped off and out of the plans before they got to Tucker's house, investigators agreed with his terms. Quote, Roderick was supposed to go for the sister, from what I understand, said Ian. Again, Roderick is Mitchell. What happened at the end of this investigation was that detectives concluded that due to the blood spatter on his pants, it was Mitchell who killed Bob. The blood spatter was on the lower parts of his pants, which told investigators that he'd been standing directly over Bob while he was being beaten to death. Logically, the only people who could have gotten this exact splatter were the ones inflicting the blows. None of Bob's blood had been found on Tucker's pants. Quote, Tucker Cipriano did not beat Robert Cipriano. Mitchell Young intended to kill. That was the plan. He's even beaten the people he was assigned to kill. By the way, I have a video of Tucker's interrogation, pictures, and more for this case and all the other cases in the Patreon group. Speaking of which, let me give you a weekly reminder to subscribe to Love and Murder so you don't miss a case, and also join us over here in Patreon and get these extras as well as bonus episodes. Patreon.com/Love and Murder. Once you subscribe, you get the access to all the back catalog of extras. We have plans starting at $3 a month donation from you. You'd also be a sponsor of the podcast and have my gratitude. Patreon.com/Love and Murder. Can't wait to see you in there. Hey lambs, I want you to discover the secret to radiant, age-defying skin with Care Beauty. At Care Beauty, they're more than just skincare. They're your partner on the journey to healthy, glowing skin. Care's products are designed for real women just like you, just like me, who want to feel confident and beautiful every day. With science-backed formulas and luxurious textures, Care Beauty offers a personalized approach to skincare that delivers results. Care Beauty is vegan, animal cruelty-free, dermatologist-tested, and woman-owned. Use my link, murderandlove.com/recommends/carebeauty to get 10% off your first order. Basically, just click on my link in the show notes below and get 10% off and explore Care's skincare range and embark on your path to ageless beauty today. Care Beauty, where age is just a number and beauty knows no bounds. Click the link in the show notes below. And now, back to the show. During all of this, Rose and Salvatore had been taken to the hospital where Dr. Eric McDowell said that Salvatore was almost dead. Doctors had to get an organ donation service to start getting some organs together for him for transport. This is how badly injured he was. Salvatore had multiple facial bone fractures, multiple skull fractures, and bleeding and swelling on his brain. Rose also had similar injuries. Dr. McDowell is quoted as saying, quote, "This is certainly by far the worst I've ever seen." Rose was hospitalized for 3 weeks, and then they released her to a rehabilitation center. Salvatore was in critical condition. Quote, "Sal continues to display increased stability medically. It is likely that by the end of the week, he will be ready to be transferred to a rehabilitation facility specializing in neurobrain injuries." Tucker and Mitchell both pled not guilty to first-degree premeditated murder, first-degree felony murder, 2 counts of assault with intent to murder, and armed robbery. Tucker's uncle, Greg Cipriano, kept talking to him to get him to fess up, but he kept saying that he didn't do anything, and none of this was his fault. Greg didn't want the Cipriano family to have to go to court and relive the atrocities that had happened. In a recorded conversation between Greg and Tucker, Greg continued to try to convince him. So I'm going to kind of read the transcript of that recorded conversation. Tucker, I don't see the point in doing life behind bars. I don't see living behind bars. Greg, well, if you go through this trial, your family will be traumatized. I feel disrespectful saying this, but I feel like fighting for the rest of my life is the only thing I have, the only option I have left to do. Giving up is like hanging myself, Greg. That's what it feels like to me. Well, your dad paid for it with his life, and if you have any hope of redemption whatsoever, you would do something about it. Don't come at me like that. By the way, some of these recorded conversations are in Patreon, as well as the pictures of evidence and so much more. Patreon.com/loveandmurder. Greg thought that this was a lost cause because Tucker just kept telling him that he didn't do anything and that he could never hurt his father. However, a couple days before trial, Greg decided to try one more time. This time he visited Tucker in jail and brought along Tanner. Quote, "The biggest moment of your life could be right now," Tanner said to Tucker. "What is more meaningful to me is if you could take responsibility for the first time in your life, just as Dad always wanted you to." That opened my eyes and broke my heart. I feel like the only way that I'll be able to express my love for the family enough, I'm taking responsibility. I'm sorry for treating you the way I did. I love you, Tanner. I love you so much, Tucker said. Tanner says, "I love you too. We all love you." When Tucker went to court, he pled no contest to first-degree murder so that he would avoid going to trial. "So you're willing to accept the rest of your life in prison and take a plea?" Tucker said. "Yes, sir." In his pre-sentencing hearing, Tucker said that he knew Tanner was hiding upstairs and that he was the one who called 911. He said that he pretended not to know this so that he could protect his brother from Mitchell. Assistant Prosecutor John, I'm going to try and say this, Skrzynski, 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 and thank you for those who helped me to pronounce names, said that Tucker was a liar and his statement showed that he still didn't take responsibility for his actions. He said that if you read Tanner's statement, he told the police that Tucker was searching throughout the house for him and even called out to Mitchell, "Hey, there's still one more." Then Michael McCarthy, Mitchell's defense attorney, tried to show the court why this probably happened. Wow, yeah, this should be good. Let's see what he says. He said that Tucker's younger brothers were athletic and 6'1". That's your opening argument? As opposed to Tucker's height of 5'7". Okay? He was also on drugs. So basically, in weeks leading up to the murder, they were drinking alcohol, taking the K2, and doing mushrooms. So that's where he was also on drugs. Kicked out of the house and had learning disabilities and had ongoing legal problems, as opposed to the Scholar athletic twins. So I fail to understand how this is an excuse. The parents treated them all the same, and Tucker made his own decisions. So him being shorter and having a learning disability, he was jealous and thought, let's kill the whole family? Really? And you brought this up in court because you thought the judge would take pity? Police came forth and spoke about that night. They said that the scene was horrific with blood splattered everywhere. The fridge, ceiling, and cabinet. Damn, even the ceiling? They said that they found Salvatore lying on the landing of the stairwell of the basement. He was choking on his own blood, making gurgling sounds and barely alive. Underneath him were 2 aluminum bats. Showing the court the crime scene photos, Attorney McCarthy said, quote, "That's where Salvatore's head was, tucked into that corner, his legs going out in this direction and on top of those bats. I submit to you that it is not a coincidence that Salvatore is left by his brother to die in that very spot. He's there on that landing on top of those bats right underneath all those team pictures. It's because Tucker Cipriano is filled with rage." Prosecutor Scarizzi said that the evidence speaks for itself. You can literally see what happened. Quote, "In order to believe what he was just talking about, you would have to overlook most of the evidence that was presented and most of the evidence that was found on Mr. Young. Tucker Cipriano might be full of rage, but Mr. Young is full of blood, and he's full of Bob Cipriano's blood." Then, Deputy Forensic Pathologist with the Oakland County Medical Examiner's Office, Ruben Ortiz Reyes, told the court graphic detail of Bob's autopsy. He told the court that Bob had been mainly beaten about the head, on the top, back, left, right, and on his face. His head had severe lacerations. His skull was fractured. His mouth and nose were filled with blood. The bones were broken in small pieces, and there was extensive hemorrhaging. Wow. He also said that there was one long continuous fracture on the back of the skull, which is what caused the blood to go into his airway. Quote, "His left ear was shredded." When he was asked if he thought the ear damage was because of the bat, he said, quote, "Yes, it suggests one blow. He drowned in his own blood. He was still breathing, still alive, and the blood went into his lungs." He also said that Bob had defensive wounds on his hand, which meant that he was really trying to fight for his life. Ian's statement of the events of the night were also entered. He said that Tucker and Mitchell decided to rob Tucker's house and kill the family. He said that they talked about who would kill who, and Tucker was supposed to kill his brothers, while Mitchell was supposed to kill Tucker's parents. Mitchell volunteered to kill Isabella. Did you hear that? Mitchell volunteered, while he's sitting there acting like he's all innocent, to kill an 8-year-old girl. But Tucker said no one touches Isabella. So that's when the group decided to rob the garage again instead of killing the family. They'd gone back to the house, gotten the same way that they originally did, and Tucker found a gift debit card with a sticker on it that said $265. So they were happy with that. They took that and drove to Kego Harbor and tried to use the card. That's when they found out it only had $2.65 on it and not $265. So they drove to a bank and tried the card that they had gotten from the first garage robbery, and they found out that it had been flagged for suspicious purchases. That's when Tucker and Mitchell went back to the original idea of murdering Tucker's family. Ian said he wanted out because he wasn't murdering anyone. "I am not killing nobody. I don't know anything. I don't want to hear this." Or basically even being in the vicinity of a murder. So he was dropped off and they continued on with their night. Now, the rest of the story comes from evidence, Tucker, and Mitchell's interrogation. Around 1:45 a.m., they dropped Ian at Tucker's girlfriend's house in Kego Harbor. Tucker and Mitchell went to Tucker's house around 2:30 a.m. This time they brought knives because they were going to stab the family in their sleep. Mitchell gave Tucker a boost into the garage where he picked up a bat and opened the door for Mitchell. That's when Emmy, the family's dog, started barking. That's right, good dog. Just what you're supposed to do. Guard your family from people who want to harm them. This woke up the family, and Bob came down in his boxers and told them to leave. That's when Tucker started hitting him with the bat. Allegedly, and according to Mitchell, Mitchell said, "What are you doing?" And Tucker said, "Join this, or you will join them." According to Mitchell. Again, according to Mitchell. That's when Tucker gave him the bat and told him to kill Bob while Tucker held him down. Now, like I said, this part was coming from Mitchell, so take that with a tiny little bitty itty grain of salt. Rosa came down and saw the attack. She started pleading with Tucker to stop. Tucker allegedly told Mitchell to, quote, keep his mother quiet, and then hit her in the head. That's when Isabella came downstairs with the other bat to give to her mother so that she could defend herself. That's right, little girl, that's right. However, it backfired and Mitchell took the bat from Rose. You know what? I think I've been saying Rosa this whole time. I apologize. It's Rose. Mitchell took the bat from Rose and started beating her with it. Now, I was thinking about this. I really hope Isabella isn't blaming herself for that. Isabella, if by some weird reason you're listening to this, I just wanted to let you know that you, dear, were a hero. You were really trying to help your mom, and I'm proud of you. I know you don't know me from Jack or Jill, but I'm very proud of you. As a little 8-year-old girl, you were trying to protect your mom. None of this was your fault. At this time, Tucker told Isabella to go back upstairs because he didn't want her to get hurt or killed. And he took her upstairs. That's when Tanner ran, hid, and called 911.
I need an address. What is your address, please? Hello? Hello? AM, 36 seconds, April 16, 2012. 911, 26520. 26520, will do. What city are you in? What city are you in? Hello? Talk to me. Can you talk to me, please? Yes. What is going on there? Your brother? I can't understand you. What is going on there? Your brother and your friend are there? Yes. And the blue lecture there? Yes. Go inside or something so you can tell me what's going on. Yes. Are you brother? That should be the church of that. Okay, hold on just a second. 2:49 AM, 48 seconds, April 16, 2012. Hello? Yeah. Okay, listen, please just answer my questions, okay? You said your brother and his friend are there, correct? Hello? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. Yes, your brother and your friend are there, and I can hear them talking. Yes, my parents, yeah, I think that's supposed to be a little please. I've got him on the way. How are they doing? I'm thank you. Okay, go into another room. No, he just walked in. He doesn't think I'm here. Okay. I'm not good. Where are you at? Not the room. You're in your bedroom. Okay. All right. How old is your brother? He's 18, 19. Okay, now the house will up. He's there how much drugs? You got drugs? Yeah. Okay. Where are your parents at? Good. I'm fine. Okay, so your parents are outside, so your brother and his friend? They're like out in the hallway, standing there. Okay, so they're not outside of the house, they're no, they're inside. Okay. I don't know. I won't pick up. They're going to do stuff for me. The officers are on the way. Okay, can you put them in 162-012. Okay, he's still at your home? I promised the younger brother, his older brother doesn't know his home. He called him. Okay. He thinks they're still in the house. He just came back. He was previously, I think they're leaving. Okay. Did you guys want to see it? I'll let you know. Okay. Let me know as soon as you make contact with your parents and you feel secure enough to go out. But you think he's still in the house? Yeah, he's in the room. He's still in your room? Yeah. So he knows you're home, or he doesn't? He didn't see you, okay. He said his brother just came in his room, but he's hiding so that he can't see him. 2:53 a.m., 38 seconds, April 16-2012. Okay. And does your brother know to use any weapons? Okay, alright. Okay. That's our officers are out. Tanner? I can't, Tanner, I'm sorry, I can't say lock the doors. So your brother? Yeah. You can hear his brother saying lock the doors. 2:54 a.m., 12 seconds, April 16-2012. Come to the back. Come through the back? Wait, try to get to the front. Okay, well, I can't hear you, Tanner. You want to go to the back? There's one door. The glass doors in the back never closed? Yeah. Who's screaming? It's around. Okay, how old is she? How's your little sister? Please catch up. He says he thinks they're about to leave, but you don't know the police are there? 2:55 a.m., 3 seconds, April 16-2012. Here's thank you. Okay. Okay. Step on that.
While Salvatore tried to stop Tucker and Mitchell with his pellet gun. He was overpowered by the two of them and beaten with the bat and the gun. When police arrived, Tucker ran out the back door and drove to his girlfriend's house, and then told Ian to get rid of the truck. But police found Ian before that was able to happen. A few hours later is when they found Tucker. Oakland County Judge Shalina Kumar said that they understood that Tucker had a difficult life, which he actually didn't. But I guess being abandoned by your parents at 4 days old and not remembering anything about it and being raised by a wonderful family constitutes a hard life. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand that he may have felt some type of way because of the abandonment, and he may want answers from his birth parents and stuff, but that doesn't constitute a hard life. Anyway, Judge Kumar said, quote, "Others fight through. With all the support you had and all the love you had, you threw it away." During sentencing, Tucker's family didn't attend, but some extended family did. Tucker, now 20, admitted to murdering his father and severely hurting his brother and mom. He said, quote, "I stand here before the people of the court, the media, my family, and friends, asking forgiveness and confessing my sins." He said that Bob was, quote, "a great dad," and Rose was, quote, "an amazing mom." And he told the story of how, on the very first day of school of his life, he'd refused to let go of his mom's hand. Quote, "Mom, I wish I would have never let go." He finished by saying that he loved his father and he hoped pleading guilty is what his father would have, quote, "wanted me to do." He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Mitchell, who was 21 at the time, wanted to prove his innocence during his sentencing hearing. He tried to show why he thought his attorney and the court system failed him in his trial. What an arrogant little He said that he was, quote, a victim of a strong miscarriage of justice. Are you kidding? He gave a nearly 30-minute statement rattling off his points. One of those points was that he said that he told Attorney McCarthy to do a bunch of things during trial and he didn't. One such thing was to make an exhibit showing the jury that Ian's testimony had discrepancies in it. Look, I'm going to let you know right now, Mitchell, Ian's testimony more than likely had no discrepancies because he was trying to avoid going in jail himself. And he was singing like Aretha Franklin and Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston, singing what happened. If anybody had discrepancies in the testimony, I would say it would be you and Tucker, not Ian. That's my personal thought. Anyways, at one point in his long-ass 30-minute statement, Judge Kumar interrupted Mitchell to tell him that this wasn't an appeal hearing and what are you reading this for? But Mitchell interrupted her and kept talking, to which she had to shut him up. Like, dude, this is my courtroom. At the end of his statement, Mitchell got all emotional and said he had a bright future ahead of him, which was now wasted because he hung out with Tucker and took drugs with him. He gave his condolences to the Cipriano family and that he let drugs, quote, cloud his mind, and that was my downfall. You have my highest hopes, my best wishes, and my prayers. End quote. He promised that he would be appealing his sentence, through teary eyes and apologies. I will be appealing this sentence because it's a gross miscarriage of justice. And then he pretended to wipe tears from his eyes. Prosecutor Skalinsky responded to the long-ass, self-absorbing statement by saying, quote, I'm horrified, and expressed his dismay that neither of the young men would fully admit their guilt. Judge Kumar said, quote, your absolute refusal to acknowledge any of your decisions or your activities is really unbelievable to me. You need to take a look in the mirror. You have ruined your own life, along with the lives of the Cipriano family. Mitchell was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole and possibly given another sentence just to shut the fuck up in my courtroom. I'm just playing. Just the life within prison without possibility of parole. He was let out of the courtroom crying like a widow baby. On October 28, 2015, Mitchell tried to appeal, but I'm sorry, I can't believe he actually tried to appeal. 3 years later, and he's still pretending like he's innocent. Wow. The little girl literally saw you, dude. Ian heard the plan. The little girl watched you doing this. The mother's still alive and she's a witness to what y'all did, and you're still trying to act like you didn't do anything? Are you kidding? Okay. On October 28, 2015, Mitchell tried to appeal, but his appeal was denied and all of his convictions were upheld. And if I was a judge, I'd have just said a big old F you. But I'm not the judge, so she kept it professional. At the time of the incident, Salvatore was 17, Tanner was 17, Isabella was 8, Rose was 51, and Bob was 52. In the aftermath, Tanner graduated from high school as valedictorian. Salvatore was still recovering. At the time, he still couldn't speak vocally, but he could through text. He was also paralyzed on the left side of his body. His mother and his family are taking care of him. Rose said, quote, Salvatore was in a walker and had a feeding tube. He was drooling. He couldn't use the left arm very well and his left leg. In June 2021, Click on Detroit followed up with the family. Salvatore is still healing, and every year the family hosts a run to fundraise for the Cipriano Children's Trust. Tanner said of his twin, quote, to watch him over these last 9 years, how much he has improved from being told that he wasn't going to survive in the first place, and now he's running and talking and doing all these great things. Salvatore is still trying to rebuild his vision, learn to balance, and get back to being able to talk. Quote, 2 biggest priorities for Sal right now. He is learning to talk again and getting control of his seizures. Another big accomplishment for Salvatore is that he got his high school diploma in June of 2021. Isabella also graduated high school around the same time. And that is the case of Tucker Salvatore, and I guess his friend Mitchell Young. So what did you think about this case? As usual, you already know I'd love to hear your thoughts, and you have 3 ways of sharing them with me. Number 1, you can tell me in the comments below. I love to hear from you in the comments below, and I'll read your comments every other Saturday. So if you want to hear your comment on air this coming Saturday, just leave it below and you will hear what you said about this case and what I have to say about what you said. Number 2, you can join the Lamb Facebook group. It's a free and welcoming group where you can discuss the cases with the rest of the lambs. Number 3, you can join the exclusive Lamb community here at patreon.com/love and murder. Right now, we have options starting at only $3 a month. In Patreon, the lambs will have access to the interrogation videos from this case, jail phone calls, pictures of then and now, pictures of evidence, etc., etc., etc. And Lamb Patreons get all of this for each full episode. And that's even in the $3 a month tier. Now, just to be a little bit candid with y'all, I have a goal to reach 500 lambs in Patreon by the end of 2024. Although I do have my loyal lamb Patreons who I love so much, I'm not close to 500. But with your help, I can reach that goal. In return, you get everything I mentioned, and depending on which tier you choose, you get even more. Every time someone joins Patreon, I put your name on my board right in front of my computer so I remember some of the people I'm doing this for. I'm asking you, as my lambs, to help me reach this goal or more by the end of 2024 and get your name on my board. I remember each and every one of my lamb Patreons. www.patreon.com/love and murder. Before you go, an easy and free way to help me out is by simply sharing this episode. All you have to do is click on the share icon on the episode as you're listening to it and share it with your friends. You can share it to your social media. You can share it with your friends, share it with your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, or the family dog. And as always, we end each episode by reminding you that it's, say it with me now, because I haven't said it for a while, so say it from the chest with me now. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All love and no murder, y'all. Bye. Hey, surprise, but no surprise. After episode Kai here, just reminding you, don't forget to give me a 5-star review on whatever platform you're on. So if you're on Spotify, just go ahead and hit 5 stars right after you're finished listening to this episode. This will help me out and the podcast out greatly. It takes no money and no time at all from you. Thanks in advance. Bye.